plot for Walking Dead.
Just make sure that they're turning into zombies though, and it's not COVID, right? Because then you
better safe than sorry.
That's freaking fantastic.
Interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a special news bulletin from our partners in the Twisted World.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a special news bulletin from Twisted World.
So before we get going, so Wilson just broke for like 30 yards and a touchdown.
All right, cool.
Oh, it's not. Come on, Rams defense.
You are too much of a stressor with fantasy football. You just gotta,
bro.
Like be like Cody.
Just give up. Just be like me and give up. Just be like me and give up.
Listen, I mean, Cody, there's still hope. I think Andy was.
There's no hope.
There's no. I'm 0-4.
If anything, I made the comment that trades are week to week, and at the end of the day, nobody knows who wins in a trade until the end of the season. This week, I would say Cody won the trade, right? Because
absolutely,
both Thielen and Eckler went off, had great weeks, fantastic. It didn't matter for Cody. Didn't make a difference.
It didn't make a difference. But if my other two trades would have gone through, I would have kicked DJ's butt this week, dude. I look back and I looked at all the other possible trades that could have went through. Any one of them, either any one of the two that I sent out, besides you, Aaron, that were, that I submitted. Any one of those, I would have won easily. But no.
Fantasy football. I wish I was better at it. I really tried this year to be good.
Yes. Why doesn't?
You're so ridiculous, bro. Like, listen, I deal enough with Garrett and his trolling, and then Cody every now and then. Now I got you on top of it.
Cody, did you see the image that I texted the group chat today?
Yeah,
yes. Because I have the crown. I am now alone at the top, undefeated. Rarely I don't like to talk trash. I'm not a trash talker when it comes to this, because I've trash talked and it always comes back to bite me in the butt. And honestly, on paper, like DJ's team should have smacked me hard. But and we did the numbers, because even with Tua going down, I would have won outright. Even if he hit his projections, even if he went above his projections, he would have had to have 101 points or whatever to beat me.
Yeah.
So I'm just, listen, it is a little lonely up here at the top.
Why wouldn't Dustin trade me? We were both 0-3, and now we're both 0-4 because he didn't trade me.
This stuff's all going in the cast, just so you guys know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why. This is a good topic, because
you screwed me, Dustin. You screwed me. You too, Alex. You too. You didn't even respond to me.
It brings all the drama.
At least
from
Justin responded to me.
What did he respond with? Maybe?
No thanks, not interested. Period. That's what Dustin was after I harassed him, like 4 repeated text messages, like, "Hey Dustin, just following up. Hey, what's going on?" And then Alex, who initially responded, was like, "I'll think about it," and then just ghosts me straight up after that. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm losing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, remember, like, even if you're giving the moon, they have like no reason to give it up to you. Like, you're 0-3. They're both Dustin probably should have. The two of you should have like traded half your team
for sure,
because you're both 0-3.
Absolutely.
Shake it up a little bit. Would he have won had you made the trade? Probably not, right?
I didn't do his math, but it's probably better than what else has he got to lose? He's already losing. He's already going to lose, right? So I mean, he should have traded me anyway. Right. I was giving the world to Alex. I mean, you're right. Alex doesn't have a reason to trade me, but I was giving the world to him for Cup. Just Cup. I was giving him like what?
Oh, you wanted your boy.
I wanted Cup, and I was giving him like everything. I was willing to give him everything. I was like, I'll give you Cousins, Alvin Kamara, and DJ Moore. Just give me Cup. And he's like, and then I'm like, all right, I'll give you. You know what I think it is? What I think it is when you come on strong like that with a trade, I think people go all of a sudden start questioning like why you're doing that. Well, maybe they just need to look at my track record.
right.
0-3.
Well, rather than saying like, hey, my team's a train wreck, and I am I have, as of the beginning of this week, you had an 18% chance of making playoffs. So you can write that off. It's got to be under 10 at this point. I don't even know how you would ever make it unless you won out.
You just wouldn't.
You'd have to win out. You'd have to win out to make playoffs. And even then, I think it's 8-4 is what you'd end up with if you won out.
Real quick before I forget, I'm kind of curious. How are you doing on your other league where you made out on your team?
Oh, the church league,
Cody. Yeah,
I'm after this week. I'll be 2-2. I won this week.
Okay, so you're mediocre.
Yeah, I'm mediocre. I'm just barely getting there because his team sucked this week, dude. His team was god awful.
D's get degrees.
Man,
or so I've been told. Anyway, so no, football's great, man. I love football season.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. How did the baby shower go?
Oh, I was like, me? My baby shower?
No, it was good. I'm not having any kids.
I was like, it's good. Yeah, it was good.
I mean, it's your first, so yeah. Did you guys play games?
I kind of watched them play games. I didn't really play games myself. I did this thing where I made DJ drink a baby bottle, which I recorded. Maybe I'll throw it in the chat so you guys can watch.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be a part of those things too, kind of, because it's your kid, but at the same time, it's a baby shower, and you're a guy, and generally don't go to those things. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is great. You guys want to play some Magic?
Yeah, that's what we were trying. We actually were discussing that, and then we ended up playing Magic later at night, at 9, which I won one of the games, by the way. It was great. Loved it.
Did you?
Yeah.
What'd you play?
Played my black blue deck, new and improved, Theft. And DJ is not a fan of Theft. DJ bought a new deck. Actually, he bought the Painbow deck.
Oh, he bought the new one. Nice,
dude. That thing is busted. It gets out of control.
Which
so
one did
fast.
he buy?
It's the brand new
Painbow.
Or Painbow.
Yeah.
It's one of the new commander decks for Dominaria.
Yeah. It's 5 color and has Cascade, and it's legendary tribal. Or
what tribal is it?
So legendary tribal, legendaries.
Oh, they're all legendaries.
Yeah. So, the thing is, that's the route he went with it, because in addition to buying that, he also bought Joda the Unifier, which is not included in that, but is a great center. If you just use that as the commander instead, the deck is busted, because you're going to when you cast stuff, you cascade into all the legendary creatures from the Painbow deck, and then you can just you cast those for free, and they have ETB, and they all get +1/+1 for every other legendary you have on the board. It gets out of control very fast.
No, the Painbow is not actually called Painbow. Isn't that the one that was Legends? Legends Legendary?
No, the Painbow one is called the Painbow.
Okay, because I thought the All Legends one was called Legends Legendary or something like that. It's got Legends in the name. I didn't think Painbow was all legendaries.
It has a ton. It's not a ton of. He's not playing it. The deck itself probably doesn't have as many as that other one does. But he was playing it as legendary tribal because he picked up Joda the Unifier.
Nice.
Because then it makes it legendary tribal. Otherwise, it's just the planeswalker dude who makes big 5 color things. Otherwise, it's just 5 color fun stuff. And then.
So did he win?
No, actually, he lost both games. Will won one, and then I won one. So really powerful deck, though. Hard to beat.
What did Will run?
He played his painter deck.
Okay. The one he played on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Spellslinger thing. I mean, Will always has a Spellslinger deck. That's pretty much the only thing he has, except the artifact deck he has. But it's like Grixis Spellslinger.
All right. So now that we've got 3 listeners left, we should probably move on to our topic for the week.
Yeah. So we're in the month of October, the month right before Christmas begins. And
how dare you skip right over Thanksgiving and my birthday? You just completely annihilated the month of November, which is by far the greatest month in the entire year.
Your birthday can share a month with Christmas. It's okay. A lot of people do.
No, we do not just skip November. You can't. Cody, do you skip November?
No, you don't, because I think it's better than December.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna have a kid in December, and he still thinks November's a better day, a better month.
November is better than December.
What makes November better?
Me.
I mean, we got Andy's birthday. What's that?
My birthday.
Oh, your birthday's in there too.
Yeah,
two of the best birthdays in the whole world. I mean, can you argue with that?
It was the greatest week ever. So much so that they had to space it out 10 years just so that these two individuals could be born 2 days apart.
Yeah. No, exactly. And then there's
that day is flying. It's great.
You come together and you eat food. I mean, name a better holiday. Come on now. you eat food
and football.
Yeah.
Right?
See,
food,
he's making my case for me. Look at
that. And listen, games can be on. They're on TV.
Yeah.
But I guess my point is none of this prevents Christmas from happening.
We're not trying to prevent Christmas.
Sure.
This is the misconception.
No.
Well, yes, it should not happen until after Thanksgiving. Let's just put that out there. You are robbing a holiday, right? Just robbing a holiday. But the misconception is that I dislike or hate Christmas. That is not the case. I think it is a season that deserves its season, and I don't think that it should be pillaging, or stealing from other seasons. Hence, Thanksgiving. The month of Thanksgiving and being thankful is an important time. We should wait until that concludes, which for me would be Black Friday. And at that point, if you want to get a tree, put up Christmas lights, do we
really want to celebrate a holiday that like just raped and pillaged the Native American? I mean, is that something we want to do?
But there was a moment in there where they shared a table and ate turkeys.
Right before they murdered them.
Listen, sometimes you don't skip the end of the movie. You watch it. You watch and see how it unfolds. I'm sure they enjoyed the dinner. Okay? Like, let me enjoy my football. We don't skip to the end of Christmas.
Football. I mean, like, football happens no matter what. Right? I mean, sometimes football's on Christmas Day. I love when that happens. It's kind of cool.
God bless it.
Football does happen every Thanksgiving, though. And being a Cowboys fan, I get to enjoy it. Sometimes,
yeah, I mean, it always made sense for the Cowboys to play on Thanksgiving against the other team that now doesn't make sense to be played on Thanksgiving, which is now the Commanders. It's not going to be the same without the Cowboys and Redskins, Cowboys and Indians.
Well, maybe they can play the Chiefs. Chiefs are still there.
Yeah, I don't know how they're able to still have their name.
I was just trying to figure that out the other day. Like, how does that even make sense? But it's Washington, D.C., I guess, because it's, the
month of October, Halloween month, we decided that we're going to pick out lore and monsters that are kind of always, I don't want to say celebrated on Halloween, but they're like staples that people go to when you decorate, when you dress up, when all the things Halloween, movies, stuff like that. They always tend to kind of surround these particular monsters. And so there's, we said 4 or 5 different set of monsters that we're going to kind of go through this month.
We got 4 weeks. So we're going to kick it off with Senor Frank.
Oh, Frankenstein's monster.
Yes. I'm curious though, Cody, did you end up buying that costume for Andy?
No, I was out of budget.
Yeah, and nobody wants to waste a budget on trash.
My budget was $0.00.
I was gonna say, how much did that thing cost?
It's not like one Target that had it still.
It's like $15. I'll go buy it right now.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. I didn't really look at it.
And what I'll do is I'll give it to his girls on Friday night and be like, look what I found your dad.
Dude.
Like, yeah.
I will cut your kneecaps. Dressing up like ranch for Halloween.
Dressing up like ranch, bro. That's legit.
I will wear most everything, but don't make me wear something I don't like. It's like me making you wear an Eagles jersey or a Redskins jersey on Halloween.
I think Niners would be worse. I'm just saying.
Maybe
that would be horribly worse.
Actually, making you wear a T.O. Niners jersey would be worse.
Oh, God.
Even though I know T.O. was a Cowboy at some point.
He was. But. Yeah. He danced on both emblems in the middle of the field. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Frankenstein. We're going to kick it off with Frankenstein. And I think, so doing the analyzing this, every one of these monsters or groups of monsters, because I know we're going to do mummies and I think zombies is one of them. I have to go back and look. But they have all stinted from something that has some, at least, piece of real piece to it, right? So the original writer of Frankenstein was Mary Shelley, and I believe it was like the 1800s or 1700s, something like that. Anybody
right,
know?
the original novel.
The original Mary Shelley, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
I can pull it up. 1818.
1818. Okay, so her husband was like a poet, and like he wrote a lot of cryptic poetry and stuff. And then so they met and dated in college, and then so she goes on to write this book. Now, where Frankenstein came from was not like they didn't know. They figured that these people just absolutely came up with it. But I guess in 2002, a PhD student at Newcastle University found some historical documents that indicated that the model for Victor Frankenstein was a doctor named James Lind, who also happened to be Shelley's scientific mentor at Eton University during the early 1800s. So he messed around with electrical impulses and the muscles of the body. Like, hey, if I send a shock, will it charge the muscle? Right.
Like reanimate the muscle.
Right. Yeah. So these are dead. He started with frogs, like dead frogs, but he'd shock the muscle and see that the muscle moved. So he started messing around with that. And I guess, and so I don't know if it was her husband or her specifically that he was the mentor for, but one of them. And so Lind was, he went to multiple different colleges, Edinburgh, got his PhD in medical practices, and graduated with his medical doctorate from the University of Edinburgh in 1748. And you ready for this? His main subject for his doctorate was venereal diseases.
Tight.
That's what he wrote his thesis on.
Nice.
So, and it says the reason was because his experience in the Navy. So you could run with that how you want. Nobody?
I got nothing.
Venereal
What
diseases.
would the Navy have anything to do with that?
I don't. That's what it said. But
It's
what's
like,
the
I
first
don't know,
thing?
just read.
What's the first thing that pops in your mind?
Dr. Fauci is Frankenstein.
Well, he's a subject for, right? I just find it funny that this guy's main thesis study was venereal diseases, and that they attribute that to his work in the Navy. So apparently, a lot of Navy people have venereal diseases.
Gross.
Happens.
But I mean,
Happens.
but he went on to study scurvy. Anybody know what scurvy is? Actually,
I do.
I do.
You do? What is it?
Yeah, it's when you don't get enough vitamin C.
Correct.
That's it.
Yep. Which is why it happens a lot on boats. And what
happens? You just get super sick, right?
It's the pirate disease. It's the pirate.
You get super sick, and I believe you get you get skin. There's something on the skin that causes problems. It's a quick Google search will probably fix this. But I know it's
Google
vitamin
search
C.
it and read it. Yeah.
I think it's I don't remember what the reason for it is, but I know that it's very popular for naval and boats.
Well, it's good probably because there's nothing. I mean, fruit doesn't last that long. When you're on a ship, you're traveling for a long period of time, and obviously you don't have a tree on board. So,
yeah, but can you just carry like buckets of oranges?
Well, they go bad after a month.
Well, they would. I think they would. They would bring fruit, but fruit only lasts so long on there's no way to keep anything fresh on a boat.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
So it looks like, he studied a lot of diseases. I mean, that was his main, says,
but how does this lead to Frankenstein? That's what I want to know. How does it lead to,
he started,
the body
so
up?
he started messing with dead bodies. And again, his disease, like working on a lot of diseases, scurvy and things like that, he was doing autopsies on a lot of bodies, right? So he was always hacking into bodies, things like that. And then so he started messing with electrical charges, showing that the body itself can animate without the brain, because the brain's where our electrical processes come from. But he was able to charge these bodies up and they would still move. And so she or her husband, being he was their mentor, experienced this, right? And so they went on to take this doctor, Dr. Lind, and called him Dr. Frankenstein. And it, you know what? I'm curious. Can you Google where that name must mean something? Like where they just randomly come up with the word Frankenstein?
Dr. Doofenshmirtz?
Well, it's based on Dr. Frankenstein is based on Victor. I don't know if it's actually like a real.
He is not real himself. Victor Frankenstein is not real.
All right, I have it right here. You guys ready?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, go.
So, Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz is also known as Professor Time. Is a fictional character from the American animated television series Phineas and Ferb. He was created by Dan.
Oh my God, you're an idiot.
Paul Povenmire, and Jeff Swampy Marsh, and is voiced by Povenmire himself. The character was first appeared in the pilot episode of Phineas and Ferb. There you have it. Case closed.
Yeah. So enunciation matters.
What the actual heck?
He heard what he heard and ran with it. I don't know where the name actually came from. I know that it's based on the fictional character of Victor Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster based on the creation of it, right? But without getting too into the weeds to where we, lose interest, there's some history to, if I'm understanding correctly, the person that wrote the book had a mentor that it has ties to this type of research where it's reanimation through electrical shock, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Muscles, and of course, muscles moving bone and limbs.
Is there anything in that what you're reading that states that was her true inspiration behind it, or just that she had, because it's all we know it's fiction, right? We know the concept's fiction. To say that no one's ever tried it, I'm sure someone has, right? Like the book's been around since 1818. I'm sure that there has been a legit try to reanimate a human through these types of ways. I've not dug into it enough, and when I researched what I'm researching right now, nothing pops up and says this is absolutely true. But the type of reanimation I would assume you would get from electrical shock through neck bolts or whatever bolts you want to talk about throughout the body, if it's not like a traditional, Freddy or Frankenstein like we would see in movies, I would assume it would just shake, assuming that it has enough life in it, right? Because in order to do this, you'd have to have a newly deceased body, or at least parts that were relatively fresh. You couldn't just, like, rigor mortis sets in, decay sets in really fast. So you can't just use organs that are like been chilling for like a couple of weeks. Like you got to do this just like a heart transplant in a hospital. Like they've got like how many hours to get it from one hospital to the next, or to get it into another person's body inside the same hospital before that's no longer viable. Right. So my thought process on this, and again, I can honestly say that I've never read through the book. I've only watched movies with Frankenstein, and it's not like it's ever been a topic that you go back and you talk about, or that they break down. But does the book or anything talk about like the feasibility of getting organs or body part? Because Frankenstein is patched together, right? Different parts from different being. I don't think it's just one individual, correct?
Right, and it's for that very reason. Like, so, if you get into a car wreck, there's only going to be so much of your body that's usable, right? And so it's the same concept like you're talking about, like organ donors, and they get them to the hospital, and how much of the body is actually going to be used again. So with that science coming from the 1600s and even before, that doctors know that if it's damaged too much, it can't be used. So Dr. Frankenstein, in the book that Mary Shelley wrote, clearly he had to find different body parts. Like it was like, people living on the street and, died of a sickness, and then he would take,
right. But see,
their arms or whatever the case may be.
That to me makes it even more, non-plausible, is the fact that you would not only be able to have all these people, he's taking parts from everywhere. How would you keep them fresh? Like we're not, because maybe he's not. Maybe the book doesn't talk about this. Because
I don't know.
I mean, in order to reanimate, it has to somewhat be alive. Like somewhat have the ability. It's kind of like when something dies or a frog is dissected, how they still twitch and their legs still twitch.
Right.
It's electrical shocks that go through the nerves in the body, and the nerves are reacting and they're kicking, and so it's still moving. That stops over time due to rigor mortis, right? Like that reaction to the muscles, it stops and breaks down. So how would you even begin to keep these parts together unless this person or a person had access to a morgue and was able to get these body parts all at one time and do it all at one time? Like, I'm preparing this scientific project. I'm going to put this thing together, but I need to get all this stuff harvested all within a matter of hours, get it back to my place, get it all sewn together, and then let's go. But even then, the outcome, I mean, again, we're talking hypotheticals on a fictional story, but like even then,
well, how is Disney's brain supposedly still alive?
Well, I'm not saying that it's alive, but it's in cryo freeze apparently.
Obviously.
Freezing it. But cryo freeze is not something that was around in 1818. But
are you sure?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, absolutely. I don't. When did cryogenic technology come out?
It wasn't 1818.
Wow, I don't know. So I get your point. Like, the feasibility of this being real in any way, shape, or form. We know it's a fictional book, right? But clearly based on some level of experimental stuff going on by this particular doctor. And there was one other. It listed that one as not a possibility. So Dr. James Lind, based on these documents that were discovered in 2002, that Shelley wrote, that mentioned a lot of his experiments through 1809 through 1810. Talking about dead frogs, movement of legs, shock therapy, and that's how she got the idea of electrical impulses and lightning. Because I guess that's Dr. Frankenstein used lightning, right? Because as you said, technology wasn't there, so it's not like they had an alternator they could just pump up.
So, to answer the question from before, cryogenic, the term cryogenic was coined in 1894. So some 90 years, well, just shy of 85 years after this was written. The first person in full body to ever be frozen or cryo preserved was a professor from the University of California, of course, in 1967. However, Walt Disney died and his head was preserved in 1966. So he was right on the cusp of it, which is probably why he bought into it.
So that's a full body, and even though it was coined in 1890?
1894, the term was coined, but it was basically it was a theory. It wasn't actually in practice at that point. It was just a theory that this could happen if temperatures were able to get cold enough to where we could freeze and have they called it cryogenic temperatures is what they called it. So there is no historical knowledge as to whether or not you could preserve body parts and bring them back. But it does say that they as early as the 1930s, people were able to freeze things and thaw them out and bring them back. So it looks like, but this is more along the lines of preservations in the sense of like a book or clothing or an airplane. If like we've seen in Captain America, right, where he crashes into the polar cap or whatever, and they find him
falls in the ice,
right. He falls in the ice and he's completely preserved, right. Of course, that's far-fetched, but the idea is that if you were to find a book that was frozen in ice and you were to thaw that out slowly rather than fast, that you could actually restore something back to what it was because nothing had penetrated in. Therefore, there would be no rot or decay. So, in theory, cryogenics makes sense, but doesn't mean that it would come back to life. So, the first full corpse to ever be frozen was in 1967. Body parts, it looks like it is early as 1930s. So, again, in theory,
at least on written record.
On written record, yeah, but
so for 30 years prior, it's possible somebody was doing this, trying it out, seeing what happened.
You said 30 years prior. 1818 is when this book was written. So you're talking about 100 years.
Well, no, but you said 1830. They were already freezing stuff.
No, 1930s.
Oh, 1930s.
We didn't get to the technology until the 1900s.
Well. Maybe it just wasn't on record.
The theory of cryogenics. Theory of cryogenics wasn't even coined or talked about until the late 1890s. So this would be something that would be way ahead of its time, if possible. Which in turn would be a really cool theory if it was in the book, but it's not in the book. We're just trying to talk about the possibilities of what it would take to even get to this point.
Anybody read the book or watch the movie?
I watched the movie, but I've never read the book. And if I understand correctly, what you were saying earlier, the book really goes down this line that he would take homeless people that have died or people that were forgotten.
I think he also did. I think there was like a because he was a doctor of science, and he was the Dr. Frankenstein himself is what I'm talking about in the book. Because I'm pretty sure that the movie is based closely on the book. And if I remember correctly, he was also getting a lot of parts from like cadavers that were coming in for study, right? To the college I think he was a professor at a college, right?
So I looked it up because this is when you start typing it in, Google's like, oh, hey, yeah, somebody searched this before. Victor Frankenstein collected body parts for his monsters through body snatching. So even though he wasn't I don't know that he was actually a real doctor in the book. He would go to morgues and snatch bodies that were dead.
Okay, so it was morgues.
He would steal them from morgues and institutions at the time. It was a gruesome practice at the time, it said. He collected them from charnel houses, which is essentially morgues and funeral homes. That's terrible. He also said it also says here that he stole animal carcasses, so it was not fully human.
Yeah, so we had a pig heart in there. No big deal.
Heart in there. Easy. But see, that's easy to come by, man. If you can pull that off, hey, you're talking about animal-human hybrids here. Now that's leaps and bounds.
Yeah, see?
But
I mean,
I love how you immediately go to see plausible. No. We have a known man of science that had access to morgues and dissection laboratories. Yeah, so crazy. I mean, okay.
Oh, look at this. Go ahead.
He had access to body parts. I mean, again, he'd also have to sew them all together really quickly, and then there has to be a storm or something for this lightning bolt to happen, because I assume that's what, again, the movies that I've seen, it's always been storm lightning rather than him creating lightning out of nothing.
So it looks like there was another doctor, and he may have been working with Lind, but scientist Luigi Galvani accidentally reanimated a dead frog. So he was dissecting this frog, and then his experiments required him to use an electrified scalpel. He discovered that when his electrified scalpel made contact with the frog legs, it made the muscles jump and twitch. He theorized that instead of the body, there was animal electricity, or inside the body there was animal electricity. While this was disputed by Italian scientist Alessandro Volta, his discovery stood. The sensation was later named the galvanic reanimation. So
I want to see what this reanimated frog looks like.
This was 18th century, so this was 1700s. I don't think they had video back then.
But I mean, like reanimate. Are we talking about like making the frog jump? Because there's a difference between reanimation and like actually being somewhat cognizant of what you're doing.
Well, but Frankenstein's monster wasn't really cognitive, was it?
I believe he knew what he was doing. I don't think it's traditional like what we see now, where Frankenstein can talk and have a whole dialogue. But maybe not. Maybe it was just autopilot in the book. I don't remember. What were we gonna say?
So his nephew, Giovanni Aldini, who was inspired by his uncle's work, decided to pursue it further and experimented with reanimation with larger animals like oxen, dogs, and eventually human body parts. His work went on to earn an expansion of his uncle's title, Galvanism.
Well, I mean, we're like really closely talking about zombies here, right? So zombies is viral most of the time when we talk about zombies.
Right.
That's more viral. And I know you mentioned that as another podcast, but really we should do lichens and werewolves over zombies.
Oh,
so I think we can
werewolves.
I think we can kind of touch a little bit of zombies here. the concept of like reanimation, like outside of the zombies from viral infection, which is pretty much all the zombies we've ever seen so far have been based on this idea that it was a viral infection, because if they infect one another, they would reanimate each other and then bring it back. It's not like a one-off. So the idea of Frankenstein being a zombie essentially is a zombie, if we're going to go there, right? He's body parts, or was a living organism at one time, or at least pieces from another organism. He's brought back to life. But what does he do to sustain? Like, does he have a stomach? Does he eat? We know he doesn't talk from the most part. Like, it's a reanimation to that sense. I don't know, man. Like, I think you have a. Go ahead.
So I mean, we could throw, just because we're talking about reanimation and Frankenstein and we'll throw zombies in, because we only have 4 weeks of October, and I've totally spaced. Werewolves would be, I think. I think fantastic.
It's a must to have werewolves and lichens.
Yeah,
like that
for sure. That's huge. Yeah. So let's throw zombies in. I mean, the funny thing is, I started to type, what is the origins of, and the first thing that popped up was zombies.
Part of the reason I brought it up too is because as I'm searching stuff about Frankenstein's monster, they refer to him as a zombie. I mean, he is a reanimated living being, even though he's not a solid one creature. He's green, he's kind of got the whole thing, and he's reanimated in the sense that like you would see from a traditional zombie. So he may be the first zombie that we had ever seen as far as written in a book. But he's not traditional reanimation. He is more manufactured. Like, he was brought back to life intentionally, as opposed to an outbreak of something. And if we're talking plausibility, like, give me outbreak virus zombies over electrocution, bringing body back to life. Like, even though I don't think that it's possible to reanimate a body in a sense that we get a parasite or something that kills us, but allows our body to still be active enough for the body to not necessarily process and still decay, but at the same time being alive long enough to maybe eat brains. Hey, I'm on board with that concept. I think that it's plausible to say that zombies could exist over electrocuting a body and bringing it back to life. Well, and back to life is a loose term, because really it's not back to life. It's more like getting up and walking around.
Right. And it's like the most recent, and I know we've mentioned him in the past, and I think Cody said his name is Florida Man. Is that the
Florida Man?
There, yeah, I did say Florida Man once.
Is that the basalts guy?
That's anybody from Florida that gets mentioned in an article on the news.
So yeah, a couple basalt people. Yeah.
So the guy that ate the basalts and basically
he
swallowed basalts.
I'm pretty sure he ate basalts. That's what all this was about.
And
I thought he like snorted them or something.
Is that any better?
I mean,
dear God,
what's the difference?
One goes like
one's instantly in your bloodstream.
Which one is it?
I'd
be surprised that you both know this.
They both go the same place.
Worse or better is a suggestive term.
One gets into the brain faster. That's the way I look at it.
So this was like early 2000s, I think, right? When this happened, when the guy was on the Florida overpass or off ramp eating the guy's face.
You guys stop. Right. You guys stop and read these things. I read them and I go,
dude, it was all over the news. There was like live copter. I remember, and they were like, "Oh, the cops just shot him 4 times." I'm like, yeah. I was working, and I'm watching, and the TV was on, and I just remember it was live TV everywhere.
I stopped watching the news after OJ got off. It wasn't worth it.
But this like interrupted shows, if I remember correctly. It was like one of those things where it was like, we bring you live to the live copter, and they show all these cops, and they're like, they just shot him for like the 5th time, and he's still eating the guy's face, and everybody's like, what the heck? I knew right then and there, like we're ready for the zombie apocalypse.
What year was this?
Oh man, I can look it up. So
because I haven't had cable in years, so I don't. Who watches the news anymore?
There's still a video.
It's got to be 2016, maybe 2015 was the last time I had cable.
Look at this video. Naked man chews off guy's face. CNN video.
Dude, that's nasty. Nasty.
Man, I can't find what year it was. I'm pretty sure it was like 2004, I believe. And they did. Well, so the news or whoever, when they autopsied the guy said he had what is called bath salts. Where is the date?
You can't make anything nice for people these days. You give them like some bath salts and they eat it. You know, leave your laundry detergent open and some kid eats some Tide Pods. Like, what is wrong with today?
Those things look good.
They look you eat a lot of those?
They're like good candy. They look like good candy.
Oh, they're just stop. Like,
is that what you think when you see?
Are you denying that they look like good candy?
Cody's gonna eat faces.
Okay, I'm arguing to your point. They should not make them as appetizing as possible, but at the same time, they're not appetizing. They clearly don't smell like candy. They've got a powder on one side of them. Like,
listen,
people are not eating. Listen, no, people are not eating these by accident.
Right, I understand that.
No one's going, ooh, that looks delicious. Let's put it in my mouth.
Well, that's
they're like
an accident.
An idiot.
You're actually eating that on purpose at that point in that scenario.
Yeah, they're idiots.
I won't disagree with that.
Instantly can see how our society is falling apart. If anything, whoever's behind the idea that we need to dumb down society has succeeded. Has succeeded full force, because we no longer have enough brain cells to put together to prevent stuff like this from happening. And if I'm being real, this is not me being sick or demented in any way. Maybe we let them eat it. Like, the people that want to wear masks in their cars when they drive around and eat Tide Pods and all that,
that's how the zombies are going to start. I mean, this dude ate bath salts.
Yeah, but listen,
you know, he's eating some homeless man's face.
But listen.
They shot him 4 times.
Okay, well, I don't think that
that's the part of humanity.
I don't think the bath salts contributed to this insane person eating someone's face. I really don't think those two things are related.
Oh, and they should have shot him in the head, right? They shot him 4 times in the body.
Well, I don't think police officers should be shooting people in the head yet.
What?
I mean, I don't know.
No, he was a zombie. Like, we all know. How do you kill zombies? Let's talk about this, because we got to talk about this. We're doing monster.
You don't headshot. Police officers do not headshot.
Yeah.
How do you kill a zombie, though? How do you kill a zombie?
But we're not in the end times. This isn't a zombie. This is some idiot that probably had one point in time had a fantasy about chewing someone's face off, got high, and decided to do it.
Right.
Let's be real. That's really what this is about. It's some dude that has some weird fetish or something, or like has a crazy, like, you know, love and desire to be a zombie one day. I don't know, dude. People are weird. We just talked about, what was it, fluffies or whatever they're called? Dude, stop.
Furries.
Okay, like, the fact that people do this stuff, like, we don't even have to have an explanation for why some dude chews someone's face off. But as it stands today, officers are not trained to shoot someone in the head unless they're a sniper. That's another thing. But generally, they're not. They're not trained to shoot people in the head, because that's you don't go for a kill shot. You go to sustain the person, unless it's in defense. I, at that point, would say that an officer, at most cases, not all cases, would unload their clip.
If we end up in a zombie apocalypse, that's how it's going to spread, because nobody's going to take the kill shot.
Well, listen, I think it'll be pretty obvious if we're in a zombie apocalypse. It won't be one dude chewing someone's face off on a freeway.
That's where it starts. Now all these kids are eating.
But they killed them.
Tide Pods and.
Like, they killed him. They took him down.
Yeah, eventually.
At the end of the day, the point I was trying to make is that I think these are the type of people that as long as they're not chewing someone's face off, you just let them take themselves out.
Listen to this. The officer immediately drew his gun. The cop ordered Eugene to stop the attack. Eugene ignored his command and even growled back at the officer.
Could you imagine being that officer? Like,
it'd probably just be another Tuesday for them, you know.
Maybe, right?
Just like another day in Miami.
And before they took shots of this guy, you know, they tased him, right? So this guy's like juiced up on bath salts, which I'm surprised we haven't seen more people get high, because there are people out there that are probably hungry for a high like this. But
it says bath salts have become increasingly popular in the Miami party scene, and they can trigger extremely violent outbursts.
Yeah, that's cool. Apparently they have a desired cheekbone effect is what they want. They want some of that cheek.
I think that's a placebo. After that news story came out, everybody's like, let's do bath salts. I don't think they actually do that.
Let's bite each other's faces.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just
my how Frankenstein has become about bath salts.
Well, it's more about reanimation. Frankenstein is boring.
That was boring.
Yeah, this is a real life zombie, right?
I think the ties back to zombies is fine for Frankenstein. So like the Frankenstein story is a bit boring, and it feels like it's been a bit played out a little bit, and it's kind of hard to revamp it into something new, like a new story now. Or not really a new story, but to like reinvent it in a new movie or a book or anything like that, because it is what it is. The idea of reanimating something through electrical shock to where it has some form of like life afterwards is silly. I think it's just silly. I think it was probably a really cool concept and story back in 1818 when we didn't really have but 3 brain cells to put together, with the exception of a few people, including the author that wrote the book. But I think it's more or less just a fun pastime when it comes to Halloween. I think it's fun to think about Frankenstein and the Frankenstein's monster, but like you're not even scared of Frankenstein's monster.
No, he's nice.
He's a nice guy. Nice. He looks nice, and if anything, he's slow.
So some of the back on zombies, by the way, back to be real quick on zombies. It comes from like Haiti and the Caribbean and like Brazil, South America, where
that's voodoo, where it started.
That's the predominant. No, it started. The main origins was ancient Greece. But it was really just folklore at that point. Where people actually reanimated or appeared to reanimate was later in voodoo religious culture. And again, Haiti, Caribbean, things like that, where there are these things called bokers, which they're a voodoo practitioner known as a boker. And these bokers would use herbs, shellfish, animal parts, bones, other objects to create concoctions, including something called zombie powders, which contained tetrodotoxin. Tetrodox, blah, blah, blah. I can't say it. Anyways, a deadly neurotoxin found in pufferfish and some other marine species. And there were some different cases where, like in 1997, a Haitian woman was buried and then 3 days later seen walking around. They admitted her to a hospital, and it's possible that she was served these neurotoxins. That
actually it goes back further. It goes back further than that too.
For stated reanimations.
Yeah,
or are we just talking about zombie culture?
No, because Jesus told Lazarus to get up and walk out.
That wasn't no zombie though. He was.
I know. I was being.
That's literally a zombie. What do you mean? How's that not a zombie?
I want Aaron to tell me the definition of reanimation.
I want Aaron to tell me why that's not a zombie.
I mean, I guess. Well, but he was like alive again. He was like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Yeah, he was undead. He was back to life.
He was undead. The only thing that Jesus did, which was even a step further, is he gave him perfect reanimation, which allowed him to come back as he was before and restored, right?
But no, he still smelled bad. He smelled awful.
I'm assuming
nothing restored about that. He was dead. He was done. He smelled terrible. He was a zombie.
I would imagine, because it doesn't specify smell, but I would imagine after 3 days dead, does it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It talks about how they said don't go in there because
he smells awful. It said that they're like he smells. awful.
No. I'm talking about after his reanimation. I think they're specifying the fact that he had been dead for 3 days. Of course, he was dead, right? I'm talking about once he was fully restored. I would assume the clothes still smelled. They don't really talk about him specifically smelling after the fact. They talk about him being dead, not to go in there because he's been dead and it stinks. Yeah. But I'm talking about like a restoration. Yeah, I'm sure his clothes were stank. But he was fully restored. Yeah. But I actually, Cody, I'm agreeing. I think that's in its term. It's reanimation. It's not necessarily like he reanimated everything to where the brain cells worked and he has no desire for brains and that he is who he was before. He was in perfect restoration of what he was before. But that's a zombie. If I've ever seen one,
100%. This is a zombie.
Oh, look, there's a whole piece in this article by the History Channel where it talks about zombies in the Bible. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Talks about the bones coming, reanimating. So does that mean that it can happen? So let's finish off on that. Is reanimation plausible? Can we have a zombie apocalypse?
reanimation,
Those are
as
two different
far as they are two different things.
I know, but I'm throwing that secondary piece in there.
As in the
Piggyback it.
Frankenstein lane, no. I think it's possible to get a body to potentially move, stand up, jump around. I think that's even far-fetched, but I do think that if given enough research and money and electricity, you probably can make a body do anything you wanted it to do. But I don't know that it would be anything other than the muscles and the body and the nerves reacting to what you're doing to it, not really bringing it back to life. Now, I did read an article on here that said that they have been able to reanimate brains, meaning that brains that were essentially dead, they were able to reinduce things into them. It doesn't mean that they're bringing it back to what it was before, but essentially restoring it back to what its form was from before. You have no real way to know if that brain has retained any memories, if that brain has any capacity to walk or move or do anything in the body. But essentially, they've been able to restore a brain back to its former form after it's been deceased. That being said, I don't know that like you could say that there's no like infectious parasite that can't take over a body and reanimate it in a way that would be something similar to like a slow zombie we've seen in those old Day of Dead movies, right? I don't think we'll ever see anything like a War Z, whatever it's called, the one where they're like the zombies are like super fast and whatever. I don't think we'll ever see it like Shaun of the Dead or what was Day of the Dead, the newer one where the guy at the gas pump is like controlling all the other zombies. I don't think you'll ever see anything like that because that's a brain level that'll never get to it. But I mean, to say that there and to Cody's defense, again, zombie apocalypse is different from a zombie being reanimated. A zombie apocalypse is that it is a widespread, fast-acting like virus that is bringing everything back to life. A zombie being reanimated, could be a one-off thing.
So I want to change my question because
plausible that it could be reanimated through virus, not plausible through electricity.
Real quick, if a zombie apocalypse happens tomorrow, what's the first thing you do to prepare?
Grab a sword fight someone to death immediately.
Hey, and I know we're ending here, but I went to First Monday over the weekend and I saw a table and there was 4 katanas and I looked at Julia and I went, and she looked at me and went, fight like men. I went, fight like men.
Yes.
No, I agree. I think sword is a must. Katana's a good choice because it's long, super sharp, and you look really cool carrying it around.
And it doesn't take as much energy to swing it. No,
I mean, we live in Texas, so there's plenty of ammo.
Right.
And animals to eat. So I think listen. First off, you make sure anybody in your house is looking a little peckish.
Yeah. Well,
looking a little, a little under the weather.
That's my last question. So we're all gonna prepare, get swords. We're gonna get some food. We're gonna stock up. We're gonna get ready to rock. Okay, real quick. If your wife is a zombie, what do you do?
Well, babe,
destroy her.
It's been real, but. As much as I love my wife, I feel like there's no one else that should do what needs to be done.
Yeah, it should be you.
And what should be done is you take the sword and you do an upswing.
Wow.
Right? So that when you end with like a really cool pose.
I'm glad that's important.
You should, you slice her so fast through the midsection, and then you end up on the other side of her. And then as you put your sword away, like the top half of her body slides off.
Yeah.
And then
you were in an anime, but this is real life.
And then you say, "Omae wa mu shindeyu."
So do you do that, and then you just finish with "I love you"?
So my wife's like, "You'll never do it. You wouldn't." I'm like, I don't know why you wouldn't want me to. Like nobody wants to live as a zombie, and I understand that's kind of an oxymoron. Like you don't live as a zombie. Your body does, right?
Yeah,
you're already gone, right? Your soul's gone from the body, but. No, I would like, hey, if my wife's turning into a zombie, like I'm going to put her out of her misery. We're going to move on. I would do that for anyone. I'd do it for any of you on this call. I'd expect the same.
Yeah.
No hesitation. Bro. No hesitation. Do what you got to do.
You're getting capped.
Yeah. Domed. Do what you got to do. So
cool. So it's good to know. So we're all going to kill our wives. Fantastic. Well,
I mean, if they're already zombies, they're already dead. We didn't do it.
Right. So that's the other thing is that you're not really killing your wife.
Yeah, and we got to protect our kids at the same time. So
right.
And if I don't do it, someone will just shoot her in the head, and I don't want to give someone else that pleasure. That's my.
I also don't want to find my wife like years later, like locked up in a barn, so that when I open it, she comes out all decayed. Like that. Just listen.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to be the plot for Walking Dead.
Just make sure that they're turning into zombies though, and it's not COVID, right? Because then you
better safe than sorry.
That's freaking fantastic. Anyways,
that's it.
Twisted World fam, happy Halloween month, and we love you. We're out.
Peace out.
I scared him.
Ridiculous.